The iHeartRadio app?
Yes.
And the App Store from WHAS.com. The news.
News Radio 84 WHAS with news on demand at WHAS.com and Facebook. Depend on it.
Workplace stress. Michael Rose is joining us. He's a workplace expert. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing just great. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. There's so many stressors when it comes to work, people you work with or not, bosses, what your salary is, maybe even, according to this study, where you live. It seems like people in the West Coast are doing a little bit better than those in the Northeast. Why is that?
As it relates to commute, primarily one of the stress drivers, I think we have to ask ourselves, as an employer anyway, what kind of work is waiting for you when you do get to the workplace? Is there purpose over tension, as I say? So if there's purpose in the workplace, it sure does reduces the stress in anticipating getting there.
So specifically, what kind of things do you see? Is most workplace stress based on what people are making? Is it based on fellow employees or what?
I think the office hours of 9 to 5 are changing to the hours of whenever, and the office place is changing to wherever. So, if there's a why in the workplace, if somebody I think has a place to contribute to something larger than themselves, and they're being set up to be successful by the employer, I think it just kind of reduces the employee-employer kind of battle that sometimes goes on. Purpose is a really big issue that I see, and we do everything we can on our side to create a why, to create where the organization is going, where people fit in, and how everyone's going to work together to help us get there.
So what do you mean by purpose? Like you try to get all your employees to know exactly what they mean to your company and how they have and provide value to you?
Exactly, right. It's building a great culture. Culture is the majority of where I spend my time, making sure that we're building a great team. There's some great companies out there with some great cultures, and if people know how, I believe, to where they fit into that culture, and they're working not with bosses but with peers that they really enjoy working with, then it changes the dynamics of the workplace to where then when you arrive, you're dependent on, and you're depending on other people, and culture is important. The why of the organization, where the organization's going, is just important to communicate to everybody.
Do you see a difference in? You sound like you own a small business. Would that be correct or no?
We have 12 employees. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see a difference between that culture and, say, a corporate culture where it becomes more of a numbers game?
My mentor, who's a culture expert, just recently went on as the chief culture officer of a public company, and he's taking what he did in his small business of $30 million or so revenue and applying it to a public company. So I don't feel that it's the size of the company that can determine if you have a great culture or not. I think it starts with leadership. The leadership is the closest to the why, the purpose, and they have to communicate that to everyone and make sure that you get the right people in the right seats in order to continue building that culture from a small to medium to a large business.
It's interesting to note that when you look, for example, at Honda and Toyota specifically, that their turnaround occurred when they listened to the input of their employees on the line, the lifestyles of their employees. It's interesting because a lot of employers don't do that. And boots on the ground, if you go back and you look at the military surge that we had in Iraq and started winning some of these battles, same thing. They were listening to the boots on the ground. Why is it that so many employers, I'm thinking more of my friends who work in major banks, they don't have any feedback or get to give any feedback to their employers, and the culture's not that great.
Precisely, and one of my favorite stories, and speaking of Toyota, is the manager walking out on the shop floor, and the machine's broken, the employee doesn't know what to do, holding up production, and the manager apologizes to the employee because the process has failed him. So I think if we just take a different viewpoint and put boots on the ground to take the leaders and have them put them in direct contact with the front line and understand how the business model is working, and ask the questions why, how, what, and do more listening and less talking, I think we will learn tremendous amounts through town hall meetings and breakfast with the CEO If you want to understand and get the feedback and act on that, I think there's some tremendous, as I call it in my book, inside the box ideas that could definitely positively impact the organization.
What about people that they hate where they are? They're a negative influence on their fellow employees. What do you say to them, and how do they find another gig? Because that's kind of tough too.
If you figure that out, let me know. Okay.
Okay.
It's the right person, right seat. Right person means that they're living the core values of the organization, and those core values are aligned to their personal values. Right seat is they're uniquely qualified to do their job, and that has to mirror and match each other. If you're the right person, right seat. We for talking about commutes this morning, we had a gentleman who walked to work and complained that it was hot. Whereas right now we have a girl who drives an hour and a half round trip every day and never is late, walks in the door with a smile on her face. So it really first depends on if you're the right person. If you're the right person and have good core values aligned to the organization, I will pour training and development and mentoring and personal and professional development into that person all day long because they're going to appreciate it.
Great to talk to you, Michael. Hope we can talk again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony.